minimum balance or direct deposit requirements. Tonight, he'll happily write his first Wachovia check to Sal's Plumbing. Come in today for really free checking. Wachovia.
Oh, I love you.
Don't forget to call, son.
Yep, I got you right in here, Dad.
Sign up for the Family Share Plan, and now the whole family can make unlimited in-calls to each other and any other Verizon Wireless customer anytime without using any planned minutes from our national in-coverage area. Plus, buy one LG 3200 for $29.99 and get one free.
Oh, I need to call her back.
Are you all in? Verizon Wireless. We never stop working for you.
Hey, South Florida. Say bye-bye to that same old morning newscast and say hello to UPN 33 News This Morning.
We'll bring you all the big stories.
Plus, I'll give you your weather, and there's always traffic, along with plenty of me, Angela Ray. And you know what that means.
Woo! You never know what to expect.
We'll give you 4 great reasons to watch a new morning newscast this morning on UPN 33, weekdays from 7 to 9, starting Monday, September 20th.
Dance 360. The party's on.
Now live, a Hurricane Francis special report.
First at 11 tonight, a hurricane watch is now posted from South Florida to north of Daytona Beach.
The latest advisory, as well as the future track for Hurricane Francis, just into weather control. Meteorologist Brian Norcross has it for us live. Brian.
All right, Maggie and Rob, if you're just tuning in, the news of the evening, the big news, is the hurricane watch issued for the east coast of Florida. Here you see it from Florida City, just south of Miami, all the way up to Flagler Beach, which is just north of Daytona Beach. So 2/3 of the east coast of Florida under a hurricane watch, and then to the south, a tropical storm watch in effect for the northern 2/3 of the Florida Keys, north of the 7 Mile Bridge, including Marathon and Key Largo, and a hurricane watch is in effect for Lake Okeechobee. As a matter of fact, what amounts to a hurricane watch is in effect for the inland sections here of South Florida as well, specifically Glades and Hendry County, as well as the coastal counties. Of course, they actually technically call it an inland hurricane wind watch, but it amounts to the fact it amounts to being a hurricane watch. In other words, hurricane conditions are possible in this whole area right here. As a matter of fact, Craig Setzer, perhaps you could check out of the Weather Service office in Melbourne and see if they've issued anything for points north there. Because of the Hurricane Charlie situation, obviously, in Central Florida, they are extremely sensitive to the possibility of a hurricane coming through because they have piles and piles of debris up there that have not yet been collected. So there's where we stand in terms of the watches on the East Coast. The hurricane watch means hurricane conditions possible within about the next 36 hours. And from our reckoning in here and from the future track from the Hurricane Center, the thinking is that hurricane conditions would arrive on Friday, if they arrive, here in the southeastern part of Florida. Now, here are the hurricane warnings continuing in the Bahamas. All of the Bahamas under a hurricane warning. The only part of the Bahamas really getting bad weather now are in the southern and edging into the central Bahamas, but it'll move into the central Bahamas tomorrow, and the hurricane conditions will spread there, and then into early Friday up into the northern Bahamas. Of course, by that time, it's getting up here into our neighborhood. Now, here is the satellite picture where it starts 12 hours ago, and now watch the dot right there. That's where it was 12 hours ago, and watch where it is now. There it is right there. So if we just take that and draw this line, you can see it runs right into South Florida. Now, the fact is, however, that we don't expect the hurricane to take that line. It's a possibility, but we don't expect that that's what's going to happen because the weather conditions up here to the north are going to change during the next 2 days, that the hurricane generally moves to the west-northwest or northwest. And there are 2 influences on it. One is an influence that's going to try and make it turn right, and another is an influence that's going to try and make it turn left. So they may not occur at the same time. Point is, so the thing may wobble, and we're just going to have to see how it all works out, and more on all that in just a second. All right, here is the 11 o'clock advisory now. 22.6, 72.0, 140-mile-an-hour winds, so continuing with the same wind speed. And look at this, west-northwest now at 13, So it started out this morning at 17, and now it's down to 13. And you say, okay, 4 miles an hour. Well, 4 miles an hour is almost 25% of what it was this morning, and that makes a lot of difference in terms of how much time we might have here to prepare if the storm were to come into our area. The slower it goes, the longer it's going to take to get up in here, where it would put some kind of dangerous winds on our coast, whether it's here or wherever it is. It's just going to take longer to get there if it continues going slowly. And the computers indicate when it gets up into this region of the northern Bahamas, it's going to really begin to slow down even more, which is going to be even more agonizing for the folks dealing with it there. Now, here's the future track for the next 2 days. Tomorrow evening, moving through the central Bahamas or near the central Bahamas, and then Friday evening now in the northern Bahamas. So here's the circle for Friday evening, something like that. And the question is, where will the center be Friday evening in that circle? The best possible thing is over here on this side. The worst possible thing is over here on this side, because if it's there, the circulation around the storm is like this, and that's going to put the strongest winds into South Florida. So for the folks, you folks watching in South Florida, the worst thing is to have it come in south of us. For you folks watching up on the Treasure Coast, the worst thing is to have it come to your south, because the worst of this storm is going to occur to the north of where it comes in. And it looks like now it is delayed a little bit into late Friday. The other news about that is that we might have a little bit of extra time Friday morning to finish preparations, although, as you'll see in 1 second, the storm is so big that the winds are going to come in well in advance of the storm. And we'll try and estimate here in just a moment. All right, just the thought that I had just a moment ago, indeed, they have an inland hurricane wind watch for all of the major areas in Central Florida, including Orlando, Kissimmee, and the Central Florida areas around Orlando. Okay, so remember this thought. Try to remember that circle about where it goes down into the middle of Andros Island and over here into Eleuthera as the Friday evening time frame, as we're going to get to a graphic in just a moment to show you the size of the storm. And on Saturday, it continues north, and you can kind of make out a bend in here. That's an indication that the storm is expected more likely to bend toward the state of Florida sometime in that Friday or early Saturday time frame. And you can see, look, it's only going from here to here in 24 hours. So a slow-moving, agonizing event. If this storm hangs together, this could really be just a horrible situation wherever the worst of this comes ashore, moving in slowly. Now, here's the graphic I was talking about to show the size of the storm. And you can see, remember we were talking about that line extending down here into the middle of Andros, so it's just about this 40-mile-an-hour line. So you can see how big it is. If the storm were in that location there, already winds of 60 miles an hour would be at the coast. If it's just a little bit farther over here, obviously 60-mile-an-hour winds are covering more of the coast. And if the center comes to the coast anywhere in here, everybody is going to be under strong winds. And the area, this is the hurricane force area right in here. The hurricane force area could cover easily Broward and Palm Beach County. It's not like Hurricane Andrew, where the hurricane force area was a circle, maybe about like that. So compare the two sizes, and you'll see that this one is significantly larger, perhaps 3 times as large a surface area covered by hurricane force winds. I want to stress that this location here for the center is just a location so that you can compare the size of the storm, the 60-mile-an-hour winds and the 40-mile-an-hour winds to the state. Just look at the size of the 40-mile-an-hour winds, that much there, and that goes from Miami to well north of Orlando. So this is going to cover a large part of the state, the effects of this storm, and that's why I've been saying today, if we don't have some effect, we're going to be very lucky. And what it means is that the center of the storm is well off to the east of the Bahamas, but most of the future track does not show that possibility, although let's not dismiss it, and we can hope that that's what happens. But most of the possibilities seem seem to indicate that at least the southeast coast and probably a good part of the coast of Florida is going to have a significant effect from Hurricane Francis at some point. Now, in terms of the weather systems that are at work here that we're watching, what's happening right now is this high pressure system that's way over here. It extends